Hey, it's we're back here with Morgan Minutes, and I am Clay Morgan, and my wife Beth is working tonight, so she's at home sleeping because the way things worked out in my eye surgery. I had eye surgery again, so the way things worked out with Jeff and I, who is the actual producer of the show, we kind of running behind schedule, so we're kind of doing it today. So Beth stayed home, so that's where we're at right now. So. But anyways, welcome. Hey, glad you're watching, and we'll get right to it. We're going to talk to Jeffrey Buck today, and you're going to explain to us throughout this process who you are, what you currently are involved in, your passion, your heart, and then we may even talk a little bit about current events from your perspective as we begin to close it out, because I'm not old, but you're a little younger than I am.
Just a little.
So it's interesting for me to talk to people who are younger and people who are older. And being a barber, I get to do that a lot every day. So it's interesting to hear the different perspectives.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So what I want to ask you first is I'm going to shove it over to you. Who are you first? Maybe talk about your marriage, your kids for a little, just an intro. And then what I want to hear is a little bit about your childhood to the point of salvation. Okay?
Okay.
And then kind of some of the transitioning moments in your life that took place when you got to that point. You know what I mean? And then we'll kind of roll from there. So, who are you? A little bit about yourself and your upbringing up to salvation.
Well, diving into this stuff, we could be here literally all night.
Yes,
but
I've heard you talk a little bit about it. So,
yeah. But as Clay mentioned, my name's Jeff Buck. Just turned 31 last week. I've been married for going on 13 years this June to my beautiful wife Amber. And we have two kids together, Zoe, who's 11, and my son Josiah, who's just turned 8, and they're a handful. I know you talked about kids last month, and
yeah,
I don't know how we make it through it.
Yeah.
But so growing up, I actually grew up in a split home.
Okay.
My parents were never married. They separated.
Never married.
Never married.
Okay.
Never married. Let's just say my father had some other dealings.
Okay.
When he was younger.
Yeah.
But they weren't ever married, so I grew up in a split home my entire life.
Oh, okay.
Stepdad that took me in when I was about, I think, 1 or 2 years old, kind of raised me. My thing is, I never see eye to eye with step-parents. Me and him always fought. When growing up, my stepdad actually, he drank a lot. So
you think that had something to do with it?
That was part of it. As a young man, seeing some of the things I seen in my household, I didn't like them. So it made me angry, it made me bitter. It made me really turn against people and not trust people. So, and when I came to my dad's house, like I said, my dad had some other dealings going on, and every weekend was a party that I was at my dad's house. From the time I can really remember all the way up until my teenage years, until he really settled down with his current wife, it was a party every time I came up. Me and him had more of a friend relationship than a father-son, just because that's what he thought we needed. And it was fun. I had a blast. I seen a lot of stuff that a young man shouldn't see growing up, which led into some other problems.
That's what I was going to ask. Did that lead to other problems down the road?
Absolutely.
Because there's so many, I know I used to hear a lot that people would say, well, it doesn't affect them. Right, this is just my life. It doesn't affect them, but everything a parent does. Yeah. Everything, whether the child is there or not there, everything affects the child.
Absolutely.
Somehow. Yeah.
Now I will say, growing up, though, God had His hand on me.
Absolutely.
I mean, He covered me and protected me. And he really, I came out a different person than I would have ever expected. Yeah. You talk to my wife, my family. I turned out different than anybody ever expected, just because of the way I grew up.
Now you probably see it as training, right?
I do.
Training for where you're at now.
Yeah, and I seen where I overcame some stuff.
Sure.
It really challenged me. So I moved to this location when I was about 14. I decided, hey, I'm going to go live with my dad.
This location?
Muncie.
So where was you with your
I was
mom?
in Pendleton.
Okay,
So
not too far away, but yeah.
At that time, it was a little hick town that not a lot of people were at.
Not what it is, yeah.
No, it was very small. The school was not huge,
Okay.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I moved to Muncie to be with my dad just because I didn't like home life with my stepfather. Me and him always were fighting. I do have a sister that has Down syndrome, so that was a challenge as a young man to come up with. Not saying that she was a challenge, learning to deal with things.
It's just the whole thing.
The whole spectrum of it. Yeah. So, and I helped out with her class and stuff like that, so I learned a lot dealing with children like that had mental disabilities and things like that. I learned things what not to do too, and how strong they are.
Oh, sure.
So, when I moved to Muncie, I expected it to be a party. That's what me and my dad always had. Now, by the time I moved here, he had started settling down with his now wife, and I ended up getting another brother and another sister and one on the way within just a short amount of time. So I started going to Muncie Central, which was completely different for me because I'm used to a little hick town with a really small school and not a lot of diversity in it, really.
Right.
So coming to Muncie, it was an eye opener. You know, I seen fights, I seen drugs, I seen all kinds of things. Now, I can say I've never touched drugs, but I did used to drink when I was young.
Yeah.
And so in that kind of environment, I mean, you try to strive to be what you're in.
Came with the territory.
Yeah, it came with the territory. So when my freshman year of high school is when I met my wife. And I was 14, 15 years old. She was a little older than me. We met about the midpoint in my freshman year. And at that time, she was not saved.
Okay, so she said she's a little older. Was she sophomore?
Technically, she would be. She was a grade behind me because of some school issues.
Okay, gotcha.
But she's like 6 months older than me. So I like to leave that she's a lot older than me.
Right.
I'm married up, but no, she's only about 6 months older than me.
Gotcha.
But I met her about my mid-freshman year, and at that time she wasn't serving God. Mm-hmm. She went to church. Her mom made her go to church. Her dad, at the time, wasn't serving God.
So kind of one of those, mom was.
Yeah.
And then she was trying to drag the family.
Yeah, she did. She dragged that woman dragged 4 kids to church on her own every Sunday. 3 boys, God bless her, and my wife. My wife was the easy one out of all 3 of them. So it was one of those situations. And me personally, I used to hate God.
Yeah.
I don't really know what for. I don't know if it was my living situation or what, but I was bitter towards God.
You just grew up angry.
I did. I remember my stepmom, it was a tradition that in her household, everybody would go with great-grandma to church on Easter. Mm-hmm. And here I am, this 14-year-old kid, I'm throwing a fit in the kitchen that I'm not going to church. I hated God. I didn't want to be nowhere near it. I listened to like Marilyn Manson and all those things, and I was the farthest away from God that I could be. And during that first year of living here, I learned a lot real quick. That life wasn't a party. Mm-hmm. That, I came here to be with my dad and spend a lot more time with him and get to do things. Well, I also inherited, several siblings. Mm-hmm. So it made things difficult. And my stepmom's not much older than me. She's only about 12 years older than me.
Okay.
So she didn't know how to raise a teenager. Her oldest child at the time was like 6.
Right.
So she didn't know how to raise a teenager. So me and her always fought. Like I said, I had a thing with step parents. And I didn't get to spend much time with my dad. He always worked. He was a mechanic. So he's always working. If he's not working at the shop, he's at home working on a car. And I didn't take to the whole mechanic thing at that time. I wanted to be a rapper.
I've been there.
But during that, I found my wife. And even before my father-in-law got saved, he kind of brought me in. He started teaching me things when I would let him, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And my dad didn't try to teach me much after I had put it off for so long that it was more of a we're staying at home, we're watching TV, we're going to binge all day kind of thing. We didn't do a lot.
So the guy that's now currently your father-in-law kind of took you under his wing.
He did. He seen somebody that wanted attention, basically, a young man that needed attention, and I did, because when you grow up with several siblings, it's hard to get attention, And as the oldest, I was more the independent one, so I just was told to go do whatever I wanted, kind of thing. I used to run the streets until the street lights came on, and even after that, I'd go out till midnight playing basketball, 3 o'clock in the morning playing basketball with friends. So it really wasn't an environment where I prospered in that. The only thing my dad made me prosper in was school. I had to make sure I had to maintain.
So you had that.
Yeah, I had school going for me, but.
So you had school going for you. Then you meet then you didn't know, but you meet your future wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you guys first met, though, because, of course I know your in-laws and everything, you guys all go to church here. So I know the dynamics now.
Yeah.
Right? So it's easy to know now.
Yeah.
But, when this is all starting out, you have no clue.
No idea.
I mean, you're just, hey, I kind of like this girl, I think, and
I thought she was fine.
So as this starts coming together, was it at first like a, hey, will you go with me, or hey, do we like each other kind of thing, and then just kind of high school puppy love at first?
Yeah, I mean,
like normal, I guess.
We met through her cousin because they lived right across the street from me, and that's where I lived at pretty much.
Okay.
I was always over there hanging out with him, and we just started dating one day. And we didn't go to the same school.
Yeah.
She lived on the south side of town, lived on the north side of town.
Uh-oh.
So it was challenging.
Yeah.
Really, the only reason I started coming to church is so I could see my girlfriend.
Yeah.
That was because they would come and pick me up to take me to church.
So it was almost like Hatfields and McCoys, right?
It felt like it sometimes. Sometimes they'd come over.
Versus South side, yeah.
Yeah, I felt that a lot.
Back then, anyway.
Yeah. But they would come and pick me up for church. I wanted to go see my girlfriend, so I'm going to church. That was my introduction.
That's how they got you.
Yeah, that's how they got me.
Now, was her dad going by that time?
No, actually, when we first got together, her mom was the only one going and taking the kids.
So you just go with mom and...
Yeah, I would just go with them. And then, now I do remember, I know James always likes to say that, when I came around, it was you go to church or you can't be here. Yeah. And it really was that, because her mom was so strict about it, and her dad could kill anybody. Just the look on his face. So it was...
He can.
Yeah. But when he got saved, it was a radical save. And it changed. Everything changed. It was, we're all going to church.
Yeah.
And at that point, he was like, if you don't like it, because there was times when I would miss, and, I wasn't fully committed to church. I didn't know God. I didn't.
Committed to your girlfriend.
Exactly. And not saying I didn't mess up. I screwed up a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
I remember her uncle wanting to shoot me.
Yeah.
Because I knocked over a handrail when I was walking inside the house, and he swears I did it on purpose. And he literally he carried a little 22 in his pocket. He wanted to shoot me.
So to this day, you promise it wasn't on purpose?
I promise it wasn't on purpose. But see, here's the funny thing. That uncle, which I love him to death because he was an awesome man of God. He's one of the hardest. He lived until he's like in his upper 90s. And he always worked. I mean, he farmed his own garden in his house and everything. But he told James and Lisa that I was a deadbeat and that I was going to break her heart and all these things.
Man.
That's what over that pole.
Uncles can be protective.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because you know Kelsey, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so she was my little girl. She was the first one in the bunch, and so we always took care of her.
Yeah.
And her little boyfriends, I'm like, Kelsey, until this last one.
Yeah.
And then I met him, and I'm like, I approve. So they're good now.
But see, that's the thing. He didn't know me at the time. And like I said, I grew up a rough life.
Yeah.
But God had his hand on me.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't act the way I grew up. When I might act one way when I'm at school because I didn't want to get picked on.
Yeah.
I put up walls to protect myself.
Right.
But because yes, I was a dork, as my wife would say. I was a nerd.
Me too.
But I didn't look it.
I wasn't a nerd as far as academics, but I was a dork.
Yeah, well, I was both. But once I met them and I started coming to church, the change for me was when my grandpa passed away.
Okay.
That was one of the hardest points in my life because me and my grandpa were super close. He taught me so much growing up. And I know he didn't serve God. And it broke my heart because by that time I'd been going to church for a little while. And I remember when he passed away that I wanted to get hammered. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to get hammered because I wanted to numb the pain. And the day that I went to that, me and my best friend, his sister at the time, would go out and buy us alcohol. So, and I tried. I couldn't. Everything was disgusting.
Just didn't even like it.
I didn't even like it. I mean, and I had drank before, and I didn't like it. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And the next time I went at church, I felt a peace over me. And it felt like God was wrapping his arm around me and just holding me. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is. I'm 15, never experienced this. You know, the love that my dad showed me was the party love, and we're going to have fun. And it wasn't the love of, I'm your father and I'm here for you, whatever you need kind of thing. And shortly after that, I really started getting into church. Me and my wife got saved at the same time. We gave our hearts to Christ at the same time.
Now stop there. There's two things. I want to, when you said you didn't even like the taste, like you just wasn't happening. Have you ever thought of it? So when I hear that, I immediately think, wow, that's God's mercy.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
That's God's mercy. Like in that moment, you couldn't help yourself. You were in a position where you were self-destructive, and God had to just step in and say, I am not going to let you do this.
Yeah, because I mean,
Do you think?
the stuff I was drinking, the
Yeah.
stuff I drank before,
Yeah.
and it never bothered me the way, like,
Yeah.
the stuff I was drinking made my tongue go numb, and I
Yeah.
couldn't talk. I couldn't.
It's so crazy.
It was
isn't it?
nuts.
And that's what's crazy, because, right after that, you talked about feeling his peace, feeling his love, even though you really didn't know what you was feeling, you just knew how it felt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I see God's grace all over that. And then you said you both got sick, committed your life to Christ the same moment. Did you say the same night? Was it like at church?
It was
in a
at
service?
church. It was a Sunday night service. That's when
Okay.
the church we were going to, they had a Sunday morning and Sunday night.
Right.
Sunday morning was we would be in youth group,
Right.
and then Sunday night everybody was in the main church.
Kind
now,
of a full service, yeah.
yeah. Now you didn't see a lot of people in Sunday night.
Yeah.
That time is when really they started dying off.
Yeah.
And you didn't see a lot of young people in there.
Yeah. Right.
And of
right.
course, my mother-in-law, she's like, we're going to church.
Mm-hmm.
You can come. And that night, man.
Did you guys just like look at each other? Did you talk to each other?
No,
I mean,
like-
what was that moment when you guys both decided? Was it just you did and
Yeah.
she did on your own?
Yeah.
Or-
It was. I can't even remember what the preacher was talking about that night.
Yeah.
But it was so compelling that I got up and went to the front, and here she was right behind me. And we get up there, and at that time the pastor knew us quite
Yeah,
well,
right.
and the power, the peace and the presence and the power was so strong that I was just weeping
Yeah.
at the
right,
altar.
right.
And we dedicated our life to him at that day. And then I would say,
How old?
I was still 15. This all happened within,
Still the freshman year.
yeah, still my freshman
Okay.
year. Yeah. And that night was a radical moment for me.
Yeah, so thanks for watching again. And so what's this? These episodes will show in May throughout this month, and we'll be back in June. So typically what we do, if you haven't figured it out yet, because we're all wearing the same clothes, is we'll record a big session, and then we'll divide it up into 4 parts and show it throughout the month, just for something extra if you want to watch, and so you can get to know some of the people that go to church with you here at Tabernacle of Praise. And then if this continues and spreads out beyond this local assembly, then so be it. And it's just a good time. And if you have any questions, comments, just let us know. And I'll quit rambling, and we will see you next month.
Sounds good.
Next month. All right.